You're 19 years old. Your back is pressed flat against a brick wall in a tiny Belgian village called Bonrue. The name is French, Bonrue, good road. A cruel little joke because the road through the Ardennes forest behind you is too narrow for what's coming around the corner. You can hear it before you see it, that low metallic groan, the squeak and clank of steel running over frozen ground. Then, the silhouette appears at the end of the street. 68 tons of armored death. A king tiger. A tiger royal. They have two names for the same monster. And that monster's 88mm cannon is now slowly swinging in your direction. In your hands, a bazooka, a pipe, a piece of shoulder-fired plumbing with sights that are nothing more than a flimsy flip-up metal ladder. Your training officers told you it was a tank killer. Out here in the cold, at the tail end of the Battle of the Bulge, you know the truth. The bazooka isn't worth a damn. Not against this. The tank's barrel keeps swinging, and then it stops. It stops with a muzzle pointed directly at you. The gunner is tracking you through his periscope, staring through the thick magnified glass, placing the crosshairs right over your heart before they ram around into the breech. An 88mm shell, 3.5 inches across. There would be nothing left of you. Nothing at all. You're wearing a wool-lined field jacket. Under that, a wool sweater. Under that, a woolen shirt. It's bitter cold. They're calling it the worst winter Europe has seen in living memory. And yet your collar is open, and you're sweating profusely, soaking through every layer. That's adrenaline. That's a body that knows on a deeper level that it's about to be erased from the earth. What's your next move? Do you run? Do you freeze? Do you fire? You're 19 years old. You weigh 125 pounds. 6 weeks ago, you were eating dried biscuits out of your jacket pocket and digging frozen ground for a foxhole. And now you're seconds away from being annihilated by a German tank. This isn't a movie. This isn't fiction. This is the story of Arthur Goldschmidt, a Jewish kid from the Bronx, drafted out of his first year of engineering school, dropped into one of the bloodiest battles of the Second World War, and who would later say, with the calm of a man who's counted them, that he came within an inch of being killed at least 6 times. Welcome to POV World War II. I'm your host, Fernando Prieto. Today, you're going to live this through Arthur's eyes. From a radio repair shop in West New York, New Jersey, to the doodlebug raids of London. From the mud of Metz, to a foxhole in the Ardennes where a shell landed inside it with another man. And a brick wall in Bonrue, where the only thing standing between you and oblivion was a buddy with a strange-looking weapon called a grease gun. What does it take for a teenage boy to face down a tiger royal? What does cold actually feel like when you have to jump up and down for 20 minutes just to feel your toes again? What does it sound like when a friend is hit by a shell in a foxhole and somebody has to come collect what's left? What does it smell like walking past your own tanks, knowing what's still inside them? This is Arthur's story. Today, it's yours. It's 1925. You're born in New York City, but your first home is just across the Hudson in West New York, New Jersey. Your father has a radio store there. He's a tinkerer, a self-taught engineer with only 2 years of high school, but smart enough that he figures out how to gang together the 3 tuning knobs on the old console radios so the customer only has to turn one. He never patents it. He never thinks to. Your father was born in Germany, but only because his parents, already naturalized American citizens, went back for a couple of years before he came along. He's American through and through. He served in World War I in the Army, though he never saw combat. Years later, when the military asks where your father was born, you'll start trying to explain the whole complicated story. Eventually, you'll just say, "The hell with it. He was born here." Nobody ever questions it. You're Jewish. Your mother's family came over from Hungary. Her parents are religious. The home is kosher. On Passover, the dishes change. You hide the matzah for the kids. You go through the bitter herbs. You're bar mitzvahed at 13. Your father, though, he's stricter than that. The kind of man you might call a German authoritarian. His way or the highway. If you said damn in his house, he'd literally wash your mouth out with soap. Then 1929 hits. The Great Depression flattens the country. Your father gave credit to the township workers. When the township stopped paying its workers, the workers stopped paying him. Most landlords would let a tenant ride out a year or two. What does it cost them? An empty store? But your father's landlord won't budge past 6 months, so you pack up. You move to the Bronx, not far from the Bronx Zoo. You learn early what you want to be. By the time you're 10 or 11, you already know. Electrical engineering. While other kids are still trying to find themselves, you already have. You'll follow your father into the world of vacuum tubes and circuits. Only further, deeper. You start high school at 12. You've skipped grades. Kindergarten straight to first grade. Then knocked 2 years of junior high into one. You test into Brooklyn Technical High School, the only public school in New York City that requires an entrance exam. 12 stories. 2 broadcasting stations on the premises. One of them is the backup for WNYC. You work in the station, not for money, but for the experience. Sundays in winter, you sit by the radio. Yankee games when the season comes. A subway ride costs 5 cents. And on a nickel, you can ride all over the 5 boroughs. The world feels safe, permanent. And then it isn't. You're a teenager in the Bronx on a Sunday in December 1941. The radio program is interrupted. The President of the United States comes on. You hear the words, Pearl Harbor, the day that will live in infamy. Can you feel that moment? The way time bends around it. Yesterday, a kid going to school. Today, a country at war. You don't know it yet, but a path has just been drawn for you. All the way back to a brick wall in Belgium. 4 years and an ocean away. You graduate high school at 16 and a half. You go to work full-time, radio engineering, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. And you start Cooper Union at night, 3 hours a night, 4 nights a week. You're carrying an adult's workload before you can legally vote. You're skinny, 125 pounds, all muscle. You don't know it yet, but the Army is going to need every ounce of that muscle. You get 1 year at Cooper Union, 1 year, and then the draft board calls. Your bosses at the Signal Corps Inspectorate write letters trying to get you a deferral. They want you in the engineering pipeline. The board rejects every letter. Normally, you'd register at 18, get a questionnaire 3 or 4 months later, get processed in eventually. They hand you the questionnaire on the spot. 2 months later, you're in. They were hungry for men. Before the Army takes you, they give you a test. The Army Specialized Training Program, ASTP. The Navy has its own version. You score high enough that of all the men going in, you're one of the very few offered the Navy program. It would have been a different war, an entirely different life. That is, if you weren't afraid of drowning. So you turn it down. Can you imagine that decision? The little choices that send a life one way or another. In the Navy, you might have ridden a ship to nowhere and never seen a German up close. Instead, you choose dry land in Europe, dry land where a little over a year from now, you'll be wading through mud above your ankles and watching tank treads come around a corner. Your first job in the Army? Giving out shoes. 10 seconds of training on how to fit a boot, and they hand you a clipboard. You laugh about it later. Everyone does. Welcome to the United States Army. Then comes the real training. Basic at Fort Benning, Georgia. They send you to Fort Jackson for additional work. The barracks have slats in the wood and cold air whistles through them. Every night you slide your clothes under the mattress so they don't freeze stiff before reveille. You run 5 miles a day. You go on forced marches with a 60-pound pack. 4.5 miles in 2 hours. You drill, drill, drill. You're trained on the bazooka. You'll usually be the firer. Your buddy will be the loader. You're trained on the air-cooled 30 caliber machine gun. You qualify on weapons. You learn how to dig a foxhole from a prone position, flat on your belly. At the time, you think it's a waste of time. Why would anyone need to dig a hole flat on their belly? Later, in Belgium, with German machine gun fire passing inches over your head, you'll dig one. You'll go down a foot and start hitting water, and you'll keep digging. The ASTP, by the way, is supposed to lead to a college engineering program, accelerated, accredited, 2 years to a degree. 12 weeks into a 13-week course, the Army cancels the program. Everyone is shoved into the infantry. Some of these men had been sergeants in the Air Corps. They gave up their stripes for the engineering promise. Many of them die in Europe. You ship out on the Queen Elizabeth, painted gray for war. You leave from Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, and the ship is so fast it doesn't sail in a convoy. Every few minutes, the ship changes course to throw off any U-boat trying to line up a torpedo. You start getting seasick from all the zigzagging. The British crew has helpfully traded their food for the American food in the kitchens. You get the greasy British stuff, while they enjoy your supplies. The ship rocks and yaws, and walking up and down the stairwells is its own adventure. When the ship pitches one way, and the steps pitch the other, a single step can suddenly become 2 feet tall, or no step at all. You make it across in about 5 days. You land in England. Your unit ends up in a town called Knutsford, on the western side of the country. The first thing you do is walk into a bakery to buy a loaf of bread. The man behind the counter has the thickest Cockney accent you've ever heard. You ask the price. He says something like 2 pence a penny. Fast, clipped, completely unintelligible to a kid from the Bronx. You stick out a fistful of coins. He takes what he wants. You're sure he didn't cheat you. But it's your first lesson that the world is bigger than the 5 boroughs. You volunteer for an unusual rotation. In the Army, the rule is never volunteer for anything, but somehow this seems different. Volunteer, drill one day, do KP the next, then get a day off. So you do. And on one of those days off, you get a pass to London. That's when you meet the doodlebugs. The Germans call them B-1s. The Brits call them flying bombs, buzz bombs, doodlebugs. They were gasoline-fired jets, launched from the continent, programmed to fly until the fuel ran out, which, if the timing was right, would be roughly over London. But roughly was the best they could do. The first one comes screaming over while you're in the open. You bolt for the nearest shelter, an underground railway station. Nobody else is running. You feel like an idiot. And then you start to learn the rhythm of these things. With artillery, you can hear the round going up and you can hear it coming down. With mortars, you hear them going up, but not coming down. With these jets, the sound is the engine. And the moment the engine cuts out, the bomb starts falling. You can roughly tell where they're going to land by the silence, by the absence of sound. When other people start heading underground, you head with them. There are whole blocks reduced to rubble by the doodlebugs. The British Spitfires fly alongside the V-1s and try to tip the wings, flip them off course before they make it inland. After several weeks in England, your division crosses the channel. You disembark from the troop ship using a rope ladder called a Jacob's ladder, dropping into a smaller landing craft bobbing in the channel chop. The trick is to time the jump. If you don't, you end up in the water. You time it right. You land at Le Havre, on November 26, 1944. The harbor is so choked with wreckage that you have to wait a day for them to clear it. You don't know it yet, but in less than 2 weeks, you'll be in your first firefight. The first enemy who tries to kill you in Europe isn't a German, he's French. You learn this the hard way. The Vichy government has handed France to Hitler on a platter. The Germans never had to fight for most of it, so when American convoys roll into the small towns, the country is full of people who collaborated with the occupation, who lost relatives to American bombing, who blame you for what's been done to their towns. Drivers are pulled out of vehicles and killed. Trucks are stolen. The textbook image of liberation, flowers in your rifle barrel, weeping civilians, is only part of the story. The other part is the part where some Frenchmen would rather see you dead than thank you. There's no young men or young women in the towns you pass through. The men have been taken to fight or work. The young women, well, you don't ask. There are old men and old women lining the streets, some cheering, some not. You're attached now to the 87th Infantry Division, the Golden Acorn. They also call it the Baby Division, because the men in it are so young. When the Battle of the Bulge starts, you'll be barely 19. Your specific unit is the 347th Infantry Regiment. You're in an anti-tank outfit. They sent you over with a 37mm gun. When you got there, they said the 37 was a pea shooter and switched you to a 57. The 57 isn't worth anything against the Tigers either. The German 88mm, on the other hand, that gun is a marvel. It started life as an anti-aircraft gun. The Germans figured out it was good for high trajectory and low trajectory, so they slapped it on tanks. Tigers, King Tigers, a universal weapon. You pass your own tanks on the roadsides, Shermans knocked out by 88s, and you smell the burning flesh inside. The gasoline in the fuel tanks goes up like a torch. These tanks had a reputation for it. The men called them Ronsons, after the cigarette lighter. Your first taste of combat comes at Metz, in northern France, in early December. The army has a piece of doctrine they teach you. When artillery is trying to find you, the first round usually lands behind you, the second in front, and the third right in your lap. The shooter is bracketing, adjusting fire. 2 rounds is your warning. 3 is a death sentence. So when you hear the first shell go over, your training kicks in. Then the second one lands in front. Your lieutenant doesn't waste a syllable. Let's get the hell out of here. You move. You move now. There are guys nearby who take cover under trees. Trees feel safe, but the trees are exactly wrong. A shell that catches one detonates up in the limbs, and everything underneath gets the full blast funneled straight down. If you're flat on the ground, in the open, the shell digs into the dirt before bursting, and most of the shrapnel kicks upward and away from you at an angle. That's the physics of survival. The men under the trees, you're all killed. You were taught wrong, in part. But the lieutenant's instinct saves you that day. That night, you start to understand something about yourself. Up until you joined the army, you were the kid who would get his mouth washed out with soap if he said damn. Within a week of being in real combat, every other word out of your mouth is the F word. You can't even remember the whole list of curses you start stringing together. They just start pouring out. Combat does that. The mud comes next. Down in France that winter, the artillery is so constant that some of the men say it's actually shaking the clouds and bringing the rain down. You believe it. You're pulling that 57mm gun behind a 2.5-ton truck, and the whole rig gets bogged down in mud so deep it sucks you in over the ankles. You all pile out and try to push. The suction grabs your boots. Every step takes effort just to free your foot. The leggings, those canvas wraps that lace over your boots and part way up your calves, are caked solid. Word comes down. The Germans have you surrounded on 3 sides and they're closing in on the 4th. the general in charge of the 87th, at the time, by the way, only a brigadier, a 1-star, in a job that called for 2 stars, and he's reportedly always bucking for that 2nd star, gives the order, hold. You can imagine how that feels, surrounded on 3 sides, the 4th side closing, and the order is hold the line? Hold for what? The next day, another outfit relieves you. They take one look at the situation and decide it's too dangerous to hold. They pull back. The Germans take that ground anyway. What's your next move when the man giving the orders is more interested in his 2nd star than in your survival? You keep moving. There's nothing else to do. Somewhere in this period, you walk through an anti-personnel minefield without knowing it. You only realize it after you're through. The mines were bouncing Bettys, what the Germans called S-mines. The trigger is a little 3-pronged stalk barely poking above the ground. Step on one, and a small charge throws the mine straight up to about chest height. Then the main charge fires. A canister packed with steel ball bearings that explode outward in every direction. Your only chance is to drop flat the second you hear it pop and pray the balls fly over you. You walked through that field. You didn't know. You came out the other side. That's 2 times you should have died. There was a friend of yours from your platoon. He got hit somewhere along this stretch before you got north to the bulge. A round took out a piece of his skull and a piece of his brain. Imagine that. A piece of his brain. And yet he survives. He goes on to become a top-notch doctor, a teacher of doctors. His wife later becomes acting governor of New Hampshire. Sometimes you'll meet him for a meal at the VA hospital up at White River Junction, and the 2 of you will sit there, 2 old men who once nearly died together in the snow. But that's decades from now. Right now, in late 1944, you're a kid in mud, watching the calendar tick toward the worst battle of the war. December 16th, 1944. The Germans punched through the American forces in the Ardennes forest of Belgium. Their lines were stretched thin, about 10 miles wide, and the Germans aim for the middle. They hit, they break through, and the bulge in the map gives the battle its name. They're nearly out of fuel. They're counting on capturing Allied fuel dumps along the route to keep moving. The prize at the end is Antwerp, the great Allied supply port. If they can reach it, they split the Allied armies in 2. Up where you are, in Patton's 3rd Army, you're suddenly redirected. Everyone is shoved north through the breakthrough. You climb into the back of a 2.5-ton truck, open back, no heat, no protection from the wind. The convoy moves out. You ride for 8.5 hours. Can you feel the cold creeping up your legs? Your pant legs are stiff. Your fingers stop working. The wind goes through wool like it isn't there. When the convoy finally stops for a break, you climb down and you can't feel your feet. They're gone. Just blocks of meat at the end of your legs. You start jumping up and down. You jump for 20 minutes before any sensation returns to your toes. You don't get frostbite. Plenty of guys do. Toes blackened, fingers lost. But 2 of your fingers will never be quite the same again. Long after the war, in the warmth of New Jersey, those 2 fingers will turn yellow when the temperature drops. The cold of December 1944 will live in your hands for the rest of your life. You arrive at the bulge area on the day before New Year's. The night before, you eat a real hot meal out of a real Army field kitchen. The 2nd time in many months. Steam rising off the pot, warm food in your stomach. You don't realize how starved your body has been until you taste it. The day after, January 1st, 1945, you're in the bulge fighting. Some say it was the coldest winter on record. Some say the coldest in 50 years. Some say the coldest in 75. Some say 100. Whichever it was cold enough to kill. Cold as a weapon, just like a Mauser. Cold finds the gaps in your gear, and the gear you have isn't enough. The decision was made in spring of 1944 by General Bradley that the war wouldn't last to the winter, so warm clothing was deprioritized. By the time the snow started, there was no warm clothing in the pipeline for the front. It went to the men in the rear first, supply clerks, headquarters staff. By the time anything trickled forward, the front line got nothing. You're still wearing leggings. You're still wearing a foot-high boot. You're not equipped for this. You write home and ask your folks for fur-lined gloves. They send them. You wear the issued woolen gloves over them to protect them. Those gloves are precious. A line drawn between your fingers and gangrene. How many rounds do you have left? You don't know. Where's your squad? Some of them are frozen. Some of them are dead. Some of them are being slowly disassembled into nothing by the Ardennes winter. You live in foxholes for about 6 weeks. 6 weeks in a hole in the ground. No change of clothes, no baths, no real beds. 2-man holes, mostly. One sleeps, one watches. Then you swap. The Germans are sending out listening posts at night, trying to find you, trying to pinpoint where to drop their mortars. A whisper carries in the cold air. A cough is a beacon. A lit match could kill you. Sometimes you stand guard in a wooded area, and after about 20 minutes of staring into the trees themselves start to move. They sway. They drift. They come closer. It's not real. It's your eyes, your mind, drilled by terror and exhaustion, finding shapes that aren't there. But your finger stays on the trigger anyway, because what if you're wrong? What if it's not your eyes? What if one of those swaying shadows is a German with a rifle? Many days you eat one meal. Sometimes that meal is a single K ration. You take a bite, slip it inside your field jacket against your chest where your body heat will keep it from freezing solid, and pull it out for another bite when you can. A meal stretched across hours, across a day. Hunger becomes the soundtrack of every waking minute. Can you feel the cold settling into your bones? Can you feel the way your stomach has stopped complaining and just gone quiet? One day during the bulge, you're chosen for a job. They call it being chaplain's assistant. The job is to go around the battlefield and pick up the dead bodies for burial. There's a lot of dead. Americans, Germans, civilians, animals. The animals. Bloated horses by the road, bloated cows, bloated humans. You've seen enough death already to last most men 100 lifetimes. You've passed your own knocked-out tanks. Sherman's hit by 88s. The gasoline blown into a fireball. You can smell the burning flesh inside. But this day, this one specific body is the one that will stay with you. A man was in his foxhole. A shell came in and landed inside the foxhole with him. There is nothing left. To collect what was once a man, you need a shovel. There's no other way to carry him. Even decades later, sitting in a chair in your living room in New Jersey, you'll break up trying to tell that story. You'll have to stop. You'll have to apologize. Because some things you carry with you. Some things never leave. People ask you later about the war movies, about Band of Brothers. They want to know if it's accurate. You tell them there are 2 things the cameras can't show you, and 1 thing they won't. They can't show smell. They can't show feeling. The smell of burning flesh inside a knocked-out tank. The feeling of needing a shovel for what used to be a friend. And what they won't show is the gore. The men and animals who've lain bloated by the roadside for days. People wouldn't believe it. And if they did believe it, they'd be appalled. What's it like if you can imagine it? You can't really. You shouldn't have to. When your wife dies decades later, you won't cry. You'll have loved her deeply, and you won't cry. Death will not move you the way it moves most people. You'll have already used up a lifetime's worth of tears. Death will have stopped being the abstract thing it is for most people. It will just be a thing, a fact, a shovel's work. The end of the bulge for you comes down to a town called Bonru. It's a small place, Belgian, a handful of buildings, a road through the middle. The name is French, Bonru, good road. The road through the Ardennes forest is too narrow for the German Tiger tanks to pass safely. Too many trees, too many tight turns. So when the German armor wants to push west, they have to come through the small towns, through the bottlenecks, through Bonru. You're there with your bazooka. Your buddy is there with you, your loader. The two of you have been a team for a while now. You're usually the firer. He's usually the loader. You've got the weapon propped against the masonry of an old Belgian house. The buildings around you are stone and brick. The kind of construction that stood for a century before this war and will stand for another century after. Suddenly, 3 Tiger Royal tanks come around the corner. 3 of them coming at you. These are King Tigers, the Tiger II, one of the heaviest production tanks the Germans built. 68 tons, armor so thick our shells bounce off it. The 88mm cannon mounted in the turret is the same gun that was knocking our Shermans out of action all over Europe. Normally, you can only kill a Tiger by hitting it in the belly, where the armor is thinnest. But you don't have time to maneuver around it. You don't have a tank yourself. You have a pipe with a cheap iron bracket to aim with. Tank 1 rolls forward. Its turret traverses. The barrel keeps swinging until it stops, pointed dead at you. The gunner is dialing in his optics. He's entirely buttoned up inside that steel box, centering his telescopic sight right on your chest. They're about to shove a round into the gun and fire. The shell is 3.5 inches across. There would be nothing left to identify, nothing to bury, no body, not even for a shovel. Are you scared? Are you terrified? You have on 3 layers of wool and the cold is biting. You unzip the field jacket. You unbutton the sweater. The shirt is open at the collar. You're sweating like you're in July. Your body has gotten there ahead of your mind. It knows what an 88mm shell does to a man. Anyone who tells you they weren't scared is a fool or a liar. That's what you'll say later. A fool or a liar. Fear is honest. Fear is what keeps you alive. If you can move with it instead of freezing in it. Did you freeze? You don't know. You may have. You may have stood there for a second, 2. Time isn't behaving itself. The seconds are long enough to fit a whole life into. And then your buddy in the squad, another fellow, somebody you know, opens up with a grease gun. A grease gun. That's what we called it because it looked like the tool you used to grease the bearings on a car, back when bearings still needed greasing. In reality, it was the M3, 45 caliber submachine gun. Stamped metal, boxy, ugly, cheap to make. It fired the same fat 45 round as the Thompson and the service pistol. He empties on the side of the tank. The 45 rounds can't penetrate. They're not supposed to. They just smash and ping and rattle off the armor. But the noise inside the tank, the noise of dozens of 45 caliber rounds banging on the hull, must be deafening. The crew isn't sure what they're being hit by. They don't know if the next thing is going to come through the armor. They don't know if you have an anti-tank gun behind that wall. They surrender. They open the hatch and they climb out, hands up, just like that, without firing a shot at you. That's 3. 3 times you should have died. 3 times you didn't. You and your buddy run for the bazooka. He gets there first. He hoists it onto his shoulder. He's about to pull the trigger, and that's when you see it. The breech of the bazooka. The rear end, the open back where the rocket ignites, is just a few feet from solid masonry. You shout at him, "Don't fire," because you know, you've been trained, that the backblast from a bazooka isn't just a puff of smoke. It's a roaring jet of fire and gas. If that blast hits a wall a few feet away, it bounces straight back. It'll burn the hell out of both of you. burn your faces, burn your hands, maybe blind you, maybe set your clothes on fire in the middle of a Belgian winter. He doesn't fire. He hears you. He stops. 4 times. 4 times you should have died. The two of you move out from the wall. You find a different angle on the second tank. You aim the bazooka, that ridiculous instrument with a crude metal ladder for a sight. Completely inaccurate, completely unreliable, and you fire. It's a lucky hit. Of all the places the rocket could have gone, of all the angles it could have struck, it hits the tracks. The tracks are the chain that wraps around the wheels, the thing that lets a tank move at all. The tank is now 68 tons of immobile steel. The crew climbs out. They surrender too. The third tank, watching this, decides it doesn't want to be there anymore. It backs up. It turns around. It runs. And that's it. That's the last action of the bulge for you. The Germans pull back. The line holds. You and your buddy stand there in the cold, breathing, alive. For that action, you and your bazooka partner are awarded Silver Stars. The Silver Star is the 3rd highest medal an American service person can receive, after the Medal of Honor and the Distinguished Service Cross. The only thing actually silver about it, you'll later joke, is the small star in the center. Both of you also receive battlefield promotions to sergeant. The official citation will say that the action was attributed to playing a major role in stopping the breakthrough in the bulge. Major role. 3 teenage boys with a pipe and a grease gun, standing between 3 of the most fearsome tanks ever built and the road to Antwerp. You'll be presented your Silver Star on a parade field with thousands of soldiers. Years later, you'll go back to Luxembourg with the Friends of Luxembourg group. You'll walk through cathedrals. You'll be honored by people whose grandparents lived under Nazi domination for 5 years. You'll be reminded what that medal means. But on the day in Bonnrue, with the smell of exhaust and the snow turning gray with soot, you don't feel like a hero. You feel like a kid who almost got killed 4 different ways before lunch. What does courage actually look like? It doesn't look like the movies. It looks like a teenager soaking through every layer he owns, listening to his buddy fire a grease gun, telling his buddy not to fire because of a brick wall. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the job anyway. Right in the middle of that bitter January, you and your bazooka partner are given a 1-day pass to Luxembourg City. Another fellow from division comes along. You've been living in foxholes for about 6 weeks. Think about that, 6 weeks. You haven't bathed, you haven't changed clothes, you don't know what you smell like, and you don't want to know. The first thing the 3 of you do is head straight for a public bath. You don't even remember where the clean clothes comes from. Somehow they appear. You strip off the rotting wool, you scrub yourself raw, and you put on something clean for the first time since before Christmas. Luxembourg City feels like New York or Philadelphia, modern, lit up, liquor in every cafe, though you've never been a drinker. The Luxembourgers have been under Nazi occupation for nearly 5 years. The joy they show at the sight of American uniforms is overwhelming. You go to a movie, people stare at you because you're carrying your weapons. You have to. It's Army regulation. So you sit there in the dark with your weapons across your knees, and the people glance over, and the screen flickers. And for 2 hours, you're just a young man at the pictures. After the movie, you go to an ice cream parlor. Then the day is over. You go back to the war. The bulge officially ended on the 25th of January, 1945. You know this because you're already in trucks heading toward Germany on the 25th. You're not breaking through. You're pushing forward into ground the Germans have abandoned. You're chasing them, not chasing them off. January 29th, 1945, 4 days after the bulge ends. You're standing in line to load a truck. There are 3 trucks. You hesitate to climb on. There's no specific reason, just that hesitation in the gut. You wait. You let the line behind you push past. Eventually, the sergeant doesn't let you stall any longer. You climb on, the 3rd truck, you think. There are 19 men inside. The convoy starts moving. The truck hits a landmine. The next thing you remember is the medic talking to you. You're on the ground. There isn't anything left of the truck, he says. There were 19 men in it. 3 lived. You're one of the 3. Your spine took the brunt of it. The blast must have thrown you out of the truck while you were bent forward. 2 of your vertebrae, L1 and L2, were squeezed together so hard they fused. They'll heal that way. You'll never have motion through that part of your spine again. 3 of the little wing-shaped tabs on the sides of your vertebrae, what doctors call the transverse processes, got sheared right off. The medic, you'll learn later, helped himself to your fur-lined gloves while you were unconscious. You were never going to use them again. You don't begrudge him. He could use them. Somewhere out there for the rest of the war, a medic worked with warm hands because you couldn't. You write a letter home from the field hospital. You tell your mother and father you're okay. You tell them you have a CF wound. CF in your head. That means compound fracture. But a compound fracture in your spine would have severed the spinal cord. You wouldn't be writing anyone. CF, in this case, meant compression fracture. The letter beats the War Department telegram home by 1 day. Your folks have 1 full day of relief, 1 day knowing you're alive, before the official telegram arrives confirming you've been wounded. You're evacuated through England. From England, you ship home on a Liberty ship. Liberty ships were the workhorses of the Atlantic, mass-produced cargo vessels, and they had a reputation. They had a habit of breaking in half in rough weather. Nearly 20 broke clean in 2 over the course of the war. Hundreds more cracked. You're inside one, in a body cast, in pajamas and slippers and a bathrobe. That's all you have. Pajamas, slippers, and a bathrobe, and a continent of ocean. You make it. You arrive at Massachusetts General Hospital. From there, they transfer you to Rhodes General Hospital in Utica, New York. You're in a body cast for 3 months. The cast comes up to your chest and down past your hips. You can't sit up at first. They cut a relief in it where your legs bend so you can fold yourself enough to sit. When they cut the cast off, you have trouble standing. The cast was holding you up. Then you wear a brace for 3 months. Then 3 more months of just lying around. 9 months total in the hospital. On weekends, you get passes home. The hospital arranges a train that leaves after taps and runs straight through to Grand Central. Your father meets you at the station. On Sunday evenings, you climb back on the train, sleep all the way back, and arrive at the hospital just in time for Reveille. You ride those trains so many weekends that for the rest of your life, the chugging of a train will be one of the most familiar sounds in your head. Years later, you'll catch yourself tapping out the rhythm without thinking. While you're in the hospital, you hear that President Roosevelt has died. He passes on April 12, 1945, in Warm Springs, Georgia. You're lying in a bed when the news comes. The man who told the country and you that this would be a war worth fighting, gone, just gone. VE Day comes in May. The Germans surrender. The war you fought is over. VJ Day comes in August. The atomic bombs fall on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan surrenders. The whole war is over. You're discharged in October 1945. You take the train home. The passenger cars are so packed, there isn't even standing room. You make your way to the club car. You're not a drinker. You get sick on a single ounce. You're 19 years old. You fought in the Battle of the Bulge, and you have no idea what to order. You ask for a Southern Comfort. Of all the choices of all the bottles on the back bar, you pick one of the most powerful drinks they pour. You drink the small 2-ounce bottle. Then you order another one. By the time you get off that train, you can't walk a straight line. A policeman stops you. You concentrate as hard as you've concentrated on anything in your life. Harder than counting artillery rounds in the woods at Metz. To put one foot in front of the other and look sober. It's the only time in your life you'll be that drunk. You're wearing your uniform with the honorable service lapel button on your chest, what the men called the ruptured duck. The cop sees the patch. The cop doesn't say a word. You go home. Coming home is not the end of the war. Not for you, not for any of you. A few days after you're out of the army, you put on your uniform. You only had it for a day, and you walk over to a bowling alley in the Bronx. You want to bowl, that's all. The drinking age in New York was 21, and you're 19. They won't let you bowl. They think you'll order liquor. You tell them you don't want liquor, you just want to bowl. They still won't let you. You stand there in the uniform you just wore through Europe, the uniform that took 2 trucks, 3 Tigers, a landmine, 6 weeks in a foxhole, and 9 months in a cast. And they tell you you're too young to roll a ball at some pins. You leave. What else can you do? There's a roadside stand somewhere down south where you stop for a soda in your uniform, and they tell you they don't have any cold drinks. You watch them sell cold drinks to civilians a minute later. Some people, you'll discover, just don't like military men. You can't always tell who. You learn to tell. The flashbacks come and they come quietly. A cowboy movie, you can sit through it, no problem. Cowboys don't bother you. But a war movie sends you out of the theater shaking like you're back in the cold. It won't stop for decades. You won't even know why. You won't have a name for it for a long time. The Army doctors will call it combat fatigue and sign your discharge. Decades later, a different generation of doctors will call it PTSD. The men in your father's ward just called it shell shock and went home. Same thing, different names. Same hands going clammy when a car backfires. Same trees swaying at night. Same shovel in your dreams. You'll discover this isn't unusual. Most men coming back never talk about it. Most men coming back never tell their families, never tell their kids, never tell their wives. You won't either. Not for a long time. You'll just live with it. You'll learn other things too. You'll learn that an aunt and uncle of your father's were scheduled to go to a concentration camp. The visa for the United States came through one day before. She made it out. He didn't. He was killed in the camps. Your own family. If the Germans had broken through at the Bulge, there's a real chance the war turns out differently. There's a real chance you, a Jewish boy, would have died because of your religion. You'll meet a man at RCA, where you'll work for years as an engineer. He was a German Jew who'd been in a concentration camp. He survived only because the adults around him gave him pieces of their bread. When he was liberated at 17, he weighed 80 pounds. He spent months in army hospitals being slowly built back into a person. You'll listen to his stories, and then his Alzheimer's will come, and you'll help take care of him. The war doesn't end when the shooting stops. The war goes on forever in the men who fought it, and in the families they protected, and in the families they couldn't. Many years later, in a living room in Mont Laurel, New Jersey, 2 interviewers will sit across from you and ask you to remember. They'll ask about the medals, the Silver Star, the Bronze Star. You won't even remember exactly what it was for. The Purple Heart, the heavy cost of the 3rd truck and a shattered spine. The Battle of the Bulge Group will give you coasters. Generals will give you challenge coins. Luxembourg will fly you back over and treat you royally. You'll tell them about the body in the foxhole. You'll always break up at that part. You'll always have to stop and apologize. You'll tell them about the smell, about the feeling, about the things that movies can't show. And you'll do something the movies can't do either. You'll tell the truth about being scared. About sweating through 3 layers of wool while a Tiger's gunner zeroes in on you. About hesitating to climb onto a truck for no reason you could name. And then learning 16 of the men who climbed on with you didn't make it. about the trees swaying when there's no wind. 6 times, at least 6 times, you should have been killed. The artillery bracket at Metz, with the lieutenant's crucial warning saving your life, the bouncing Bettys you walked through without knowing, the 88mm cannon tracking your every move at Bonnrue, the bazooka's backblast you almost let your buddy fire into a brick wall, the 3rd tank that decided to run instead of finishing you off, the 3rd truck on the convoy out of Belgium, the one you hesitated to board, the one 19 men got into, the one only 3 came out of. 6 times, by any honest accounting, you should not have lived. By any honest accounting, this story should not exist. But it does, because of luck, because of training, because of a buddy with a grease gun, because of a lieutenant with the sense to run from the trees, because of fur-lined gloves your mother sent through the mail, because of an ice cream parlor in Luxembourg that gave you one afternoon of being a kid again before you climbed back into your foxhole, because of all the small things that threaded together become a life. You go on, you go to college, you become an electrical engineer, just like you knew you would when you were 10 years old. You work at RCA, you hold patents, you raise a daughter and a son, you marry a woman you love, you bury her one day, you don't cry. Not because you didn't love her, but because you used your tears up a long time ago, in a forest in Belgium, beside a foxhole, with a shovel in your hand. You'll outlive everyone in your family. No one in your family ever lived past 69. You'll be way up there. You'll credit it to a good immune system and to the Veterans Administration for keeping you alive. And you'll laugh about that, because it's true. You'll be the secretary of the Battle of the Bulge group. You'll close every meeting's minutes with the same phrase, "Live long and prosper," the salute from Star Trek, from Mr. Spock. The hand sign of a fictional character, given new meaning by a real one. Live long and prosper. That's what you wish your fellow veterans. That's what you wished and continue to wish for the men who didn't come home. For the body in the foxhole, for the 16 men in the 3rd truck, for the uncle of your father who got murdered in the camps, for the 17-year-old boy at RCA who weighed 80 pounds when the Allies opened the gates and let him out. You wish them what you've been given, the strange, undeserved, unrepayable gift of more time. This is Arthur Goldschmidt's story, the Jewish kid from the Bronx, the teenager at Cooper Union who'd been told no on his draft deferral and yes on a Navy slot he turned down because he was afraid of drowning. The replacement in the 87th Infantry Division, the Golden Acorn, the Baby Division, who shipped out on the Queen Elizabeth, who heard the Cockney baker say 2 pence a penny, who learned to read the sound of a doodlebug by its silence, who fought in the mud of Metz and the snow of the Ardennes, who held a brick wall in Bonnrue with a buddy and a bazooka and somehow stopped a Tiger Royal, who hesitated for no reason on the way to a 3rd truck and walked away from a landmine that killed 16 of his comrades, who came home in a body cast on a Liberty ship that didn't break in half, who got drunk on Southern Comfort one time in his life, who couldn't bowl in his uniform, who couldn't watch a war movie without shaking, who lived. You've walked through it with him. The mud, the cold, the shells, the smell, the split-second decisions that decide whether a body comes home or stays in the foxhole. The luck of a bazooka rocket finding a tread. The luck of a hesitation that was nothing, that meant nothing, that meant everything. Could you have done what he did? Could anyone? The answer doesn't matter. What matters is that he did it. That a teenage boy in the wrong winter, on the wrong continent, stood up against one of the heaviest tanks Germany ever built, with a pipe and some stamped iron sights, and somehow held the line. The men who came home from that war carried it for the rest of their lives. They didn't talk about it. They didn't want medals. They wanted bowling. They wanted ice cream. They wanted to ride a train without it sounding like a memory. They wanted normal back, even when normal was gone forever. Honor them by listening. Honor them by remembering. Honor them by understanding, as much as you can from the safety of your own warm room, what it cost to keep that warmth lit for you. This has been the story of Arthur Goldschmidt, a man who came within an inch of dying 6 times and lived. May we never forget. Live long and prosper. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review or rating. It actually makes a huge difference in helping people find these stories and only takes a few seconds. This story can be shared thanks to a partnership with the Rutgers University Oral History Archives. If you've got a story you'd like their help in sharing, visit oralhistory.rutgers.edu. That's oralhistory.rutgers.edu. Visit povworldwar2.com for podcast updates and more. That's povww2.com. I'm Fernando Prieto. Thanks again for listening.